Ready to write off the Twins? Not so fast, says Byron Buxton and the gang. The Tigers and or Royals haven't been caught in the wild card chase yet, but that doesn't mean Minnesota can't still try. With 4 games left, let's get locked on Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Every day. And it just seems like baseball season is every day. And it just keeps going and going. But it's still going for the Twins, and that's good. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the top Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. I'm co-host Dave Brown, a professional ball writer since 1998. Oh, speaking of every day, a BBWA member since 2012, and a Baseball Hall of Fame voter since this year. Joe Mauer, you're welcome. I'm kidding, but not really. Please follow me on Twitter at @AnswerDaveBrown if you like. Across from me in cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a Twins watcher for 30 years who not long ago covered the team on a daily basis professionally. He asks, by the way, that you spam him politely on Twitter at Brandon_Warren. Here's what's coming up on this podcast. Brandon and I will talk about the Twins' 8-3 victory Wednesday night and what it means to the AL wildcard race. The Tigers and Royals also won their games, and the Mariners did too. So we'll look back at all that and ahead to what's left for the Twins and friends, including a trip to Atlanta for the Royals for a 3-game series starting Friday night. You know who else is visiting Atlanta? Hurricane Helene. Oh, Manfred. But before we talk baseball and meteorology, let's check in with Brandon to see who's bringing us this fine episode of Locked On Twins.
Well, hello, sports fans. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. By the way, you can catch every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast with Chris Atterbury and friends. It's Dan Gladden right now on Sirius XM. Just download the SXM app. Got the finale coming up here, 6:40 p.m. Central Time at Target Field. So getaway day for the Marlins is going to be an evening situation. It's Mr. Festa against Valente Bellozzo. So it should be a fun one. Twins needing this one badly. By the way, I should declare why I say hello, sports fans, at the beginning of every title sponsor. I actually am lifting that from, did you ever get to know Stu Thornley?
The name is familiar, but to get to know him was not possible for me.
So he is the official scorer at Target Field, or one of them, and very well known in Twin circles for climbing the foul pole at the old Metropolitan Stadium when he was completely hammered one day. He'll tell you he's been drink-free for many, many years, or at least he was last I talked to him. But his claim to fame is climbing the foul pole at the Met during a game.
What was he chasing?
Mortality, apparently. And so when he would announce the first pitch time, temperature, weather, just randomly one day he goes, "Hello, sports fans," to the press box. And so I'm just doing that as kind of a nod to him. He's one of my favorite personalities I've ever met. He's like if Cliff Clavin was super.
Oh, you know. Yeah, I like little anecdotes like that. The Met is one of those places I wish that I had a chance to visit, because it's kind of a unique looking stadium, or it was. It had a little bit of everything. It was multi-purpose, and when the football stands would contract and expand, it reminded me of San Francisco, and the scoreboard reminded me a little bit of the White Sox scoreboard before they got the video, and the Shea Stadium scoreboard, and all that stuff out there kind of reminded me the outfield of Shea Stadium. And the left field stands reminded me of County Stadium in Milwaukee. It was they had very similar, before they kind of expanded, they had just kind of this huge standalone bleacher type section. And so it sort of reminded me of all those places. And whenever the White Sox would play there, like weird things would happen and they'd lose. And it was like, I kind of want to see this place.
Someone recently bought on eBay for like $2,000 one of those, like, it's like a 3-way sign that says Minnesota Twins from the Met. And I don't know how you would display it, in your yard. It would take up a big portion of it. But I don't know. It's kind of fun to mount to the top of our stoop here out front. But I don't think the wife would go for that.
That's kind of a big purchase for something so,
Yeah.
that, you don't feed your kids with or put clothes on their back or, pay the mortgage or whatever.
It's
So
not Toyotathon. You're not buying one of those cars with the bow on it in December.
right.
Yes.
So, I liked the quirkiness of the Met, kind of like how I like the milk at the Metrodome. I guess I could take or leave the actual Metrodome itself, but the milk made it for me. And also getting blown as I left the stadium by the air pressure, not by a person. So, you know how it would be very windy when you'd leave and you'd feel all blown at the Metrodome.
Left me at a loss for words, and I don't think anybody's ever done that. No, I know.
I'm celebrating the victory last night. The Twins are back in it.
A fun celebration that used to happen at the Metrodome after Vikings games. People would slip and slide in the urinals. So leave that in your memory bank.
No, they wouldn't.
The troughs. Yes, I'm dead serious.
Slipping among pee?
Yeah. Yep. Vikings fans for you.
Were the urinals, so they went to the floor?
One big trough.
Oh, they had troughs.
Yep. 20, 30 feet long.
There's a trough at Wrigley, and there used to be trough at Comiskey, and people are like, well, why can't all urinals be like that? I'll tell you what. Men's bathrooms, if aliens came down and saw the state of the typical men's washroom, they would get right back in their ship and fly away. It is other than like prisons, it's the worst society. Regardless, I assume it's everywhere, but at least in America, can offer. It's the most disgusting place you could ever conceive. And to dive in, I don't think you're in as a fan, even when drunk. I'd rather climb a pole and look for God than do that.
No. I think you get to see him one way or the other if you fall off a pole or if you slip and slide in too many urinals. But I've completely waylaid our the Twins handing L number 100 to the Marlins, which is
I think this makes though for good sports talk radio or whatever you call this podcasting. Yeah. So I'm sure people will enjoy it. I hope they haven't turned off.
Nobody else has this stuff. So I mean,
our supervisors are probably like, oh, you guys just lost your entire audience and they're never coming back. But hey, if you don't want to hear about urinals, we don't want to know you.
We've had a lot of Tigers fans in the YouTube mentions lately, which is kind of fun. So they're kind of rousing us. And I said, hey, thanks for clicking on the video. We appreciate it.
I don't have anything against the Tigers. It's the Guardians I refuse to respect. The Tigers have won their, it's not official or anything, but it would just be, it's impossible for the Tigers not to make the playoffs. The Royals, it would be difficult for them to not make the playoffs, but I still think it's possible. And that's kind of what, in a roundabout way here, 8 minutes into the show, we were getting ready to bury the Twins basically last night. The magic number for the Royals would have been down to 2.
We were
the Twins had lost that game.
And you said, they're so bad. And I said, I'm not even watching right now. I'm at softball and I'm afraid to open up the app. I did. And I'm like, for crying out loud, Simeon, you're killing me.
Well, his fastball velocity was down several miles an hour. I don't know from the last start, but it has been down. So he's obviously hitting a physical wall here in his rookie season, going where no Simeon has gone before. Mm-hmm. So he started out horrendous. He did, however, it was huge though, because the first inning, a couple guys get on. Jake Berger comes up. Jake Berger, who is like the Billy Butler of today, comes up and hits a home run. He had not had a lot of, of course, Corey's like, Jake Berger hasn't had any success against the Twins. And, like 2 seconds later, it's the ball's flying into the stands. Great catch, by the way. If you see, I would, if you want highlights of the Twins game last night, start with the Berger home run, because the catch the dad made in left field while holding the toddler, not even a baby, in a papoose, but it was a toddler. And I don't know if he picked him up to protect him or he had been holding him or whatever, but he was holding him in one arm and caught the ball in another. And it was the most impressive. It was a lot more impressive defense than the Marlins were playing yesterday because they made 4 errors. But that was amazing. Anyway, so SWR doesn't have it, but Rocco's wants to stick with him a little bit because that would stretch the bullpen ridiculously, I guess. And he got out of the first inning. He gives up a home run. He puts 2 or 3 or 5 more guys on base, gets out of it without giving up any more runs. So it was really stressful. Thrown, 30 pitches or whatever. Rocco puts him out there for the second inning. I couldn't believe it. Usually I'm not Mr. Rocco, what are you doing? But it's like, A, his velocity's down again still. B, it was completely stressful. And he gets out of the inning, and you got Louis Varland warming up anyway, and then he went back to him, and then he put 2 more guys on base, and then he brought in Varland, and he got out of it anyway, but it was totally unnecessary.
That you sound like Jerry Seinfeld when he's incredulous.
Right. I didn't mean to do that.
No, I agree, and I think that what's interesting there is that I think their pitching staff, like in the postseason, with how they're going to have to manage Festa and Zebby and SWR. Again, this is all assuming they get in, which is far from a foregone conclusion and furthermore closer to impossible than possible.
Yeah, probably not going to happen at this point.
Right. Those short starts are going to be preferable in the postseason. Obviously not short starts where you give up 3 runs in the first inning, but it is kind of funny that they would be a little better equipped than, everybody wanting to see Joe Ryan go 7 innings in October, which wasn't going to happen no matter what.
So we did too much divergence in our first segment, but after our commercial break, we'll get back and we'll talk more about the game and what's to come and the hurricane that's coming to the pennant race very shortly.
Yeah, I was just going to say the home run burger reminds me of something you'd have with that ridiculous shake that they have.
We're still diverging.
US Cellular. Anyway, let's quick take a break. Yeah. You're locked into Locked On Diverging Twins. No, with Prize Picks, you are you're playing America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. There's over 5 million active members. You got to try it out. Download that app. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS because it's just you and the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And really, it just comes down to your risk tolerance. If you're trying to make big money, you can take some riskier picks, rack up those multipliers, and let what happens, I guess. And then if you're a little less risky or you want to mix and match a bit of both, you can do that. You can go crazy and get 100 times your money, turn $10 into 1,000. Or if you want to turn $10 into $50, a little easier to do, a little less risky. You got to make some easier picks. But again, at the end of the day, you still got to hit. And that's what Prize Picks is here for. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. September coming to a close quickly, so you better hurry up. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. We're down to 1 last week in September, though, and we'll wake you up when that ends. Don't miss this deal, though, on Prize Picks because it is gone at the end of the month. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $50 off, $50 instantly, not off, on your account when you play $5. That's Locked On MLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. It's a no-brainer. Prize Picks. Run your game.
So eventually the Twins figured out that they were playing the Marlins, who have the worst record in the National League, and as Brandon said, would lose their 100th game. Worse than the Rockies. I mean, who knew? But they did make 4 errors. Probably the biggest one was the throwing error that Declan Cronin made in the last inning, in the big inning for the Twins in the 7th, I believe, when they scored 5. So I'm not sure if it's about time the Twins beat somebody. I think they've scored more than 4 runs like twice since since September 10th or something like that. They were, they had some help, but they put some runs on the board and they took advantage of some mistakes. They didn't play perfectly. Carlos Correa had a misjudgment on the base pass and got doubled off, and that could have been huge, but it didn't turn out to be. And there were some other things that didn't go right. But Byron Buxton playing in his 100th game of the season, so there's a milestone, and 92nd in the outfield, center field, said Corey
His wife actually tweeted about it.
Did she?
She said that they're celebrating it, and she said, it's a blessing to be out there every day. And honestly, I'm a celebrate everything kind of guy. So people will make fun of it. 100 games. He's only done it a couple times. Celebrate everything. Guy's doing everything he can to stay healthy and even battled through adversity this year to still get to 100 games. Hats off, man.
Yeah. Save your anti-Buxton nonsense for some other time. It's a good, that was a goal. The Twins would not be a personal goal of his, and it helped the Twins. I mean, how much worse would they be off without Byron Buxton at all?
Yeah.
They would not be competing for the playoffs if he was hurt more than he was. So kudos to him for working hard to stay on the field. Hopefully he can keep that up.
Look at some of the years he barely played. I think 2018 was the year where he got hurt in Puerto Rico, fouled the ball off his foot and had a concussion or a migraine, a whole bunch of stuff. He played a handful of games, and it was just the most miserable year. You need him on the field. And so crying about him not being on the field doesn't fix anything. And that's what bothers me the most. I think about some of the fan rhetoric is like, you don't think he wants to be out there? He would love to. His body has not allowed it. And hopefully it will continue to improve as time goes on, which is not terribly likely with how Mother Nature and Father Time raised their children.
So I thought Brooks Lee had, there were many big hits in the game. I think I said on the show yesterday, Brooks Lee needs to come up with a big hit. And he did. He led off the seventh with a double. A ball that perhaps Jesus Sanchez could have caught, but it was a difficult play up against the fence in right field. And that kind of started the thing. And a 2-out bunt, the big error by Cronin was on a 2-out bunt, a sacrifice bunt attempt by Christian Vasquez, kind of a gutsy, ballsy play of his but he needed to put the ball in play somehow, and he did. And so, bunting is not my jam usually, and with 2 strikes, it was really dangerous, but it all worked out. You made the Marlins try and make a play, and they can't really do that very well. So that's what you got to do to get these wins. It was a little, for an 8-3 game, it was sort of a pulling teeth kind of affair, but it is the kind of thing I think that can kind of clear the sinuses a little bit and get the Twins kind of in the right state of mind here to win as many games as, they probably have to win the rest of their games. They certainly at least have to win this 1 and 2, and then hope that the Royals lose a couple, which they could do. So it's not, I haven't looked at the playoff odds this morning. I forgot, but as of yesterday, it was like 25%.
22.7, I think.
Yeah. So they lost a day off the schedule, and that's why it's a little worse than yesterday.
There
are some. Yeah,
I'm on a diet. I'm on a diet. The only thing I've lost is a week.
Right. Well,
that's where they're at.
The way I look at if you haven't gained, then that's success too. So but a diet is different than the standings because we.
Did you see Vasquez though? The diet, the season has an expiration date. We all do too, but hopefully it's not.
But it's not this week.
Yeah, let's hope. Did you see the face Vasquez made when the camera panned to him at second base?
He made a couple different faces, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was very much a I need an adult kind of moment.
Right.
He's making me uncomfortable.
I see. Yeah. Well, and also there, Brooks Lee, who I've noticed before, has a penchant for swearing the F word in a good way. I mean, in a positive way, not like, hey, you, but like, yeah, that kind of.
That one like a mother effer or something,
He's walking around with his hands down as if his genitalia is too big to fit or something. And it was like, the attitude is good. The attitude, the Twins still have the right attitude. I don't know if they've played themselves out of it, but it's still, they're in a better position than they could be. They haven't felt sorry for themselves. Lou Varland again.
Yeah.
The stuff really plays well as a relief pitcher. I'm not saying like he should give up his personal goal to get paid as a starting pitcher. If he wants to do that, that's fine. But I think the way the rest of the team is set up for next season, if the Twins try and make him a starter from the outset, I think that would be a mistake. I think it's obvious that right now his stuff plays in the bullpen, and that's what they need. Even more than, considering that Joe Ryan coming back, and more than they need someone trying out to be a starter.
Well, what I think will happen is they'll send him to spring training as a starter, build him up to 45, 60 pitches, and then dial him back to reliever to see if, I don't know if building up that strength brings you back to a higher ceiling as a reliever. If you prepare as a reliever and then play the season as a reliever versus the alternative. I don't know what the difference is there. I assume the pitching lab would. And in that case, yeah, I tend to agree, though, that it would be it'd be interesting to see because, yeah, as a reliever, and also there's more money in being a setup man than there is a swing man, Jesse Chavez or worse type. So there's nuance to it all. I mean, if you're a great starter or a great reliever, yeah. But if you're a, last man in, first man out of the rotation kind of guy for your entire career, you're going to make less money than if you're a, I don't know, who is a Dan Wheeler type ahead of Brad Lidge or a Billy Wagner. So I don't know.
I don't blame Louis, but he wants that Seth Lugo money. So, it might be a few years until he gets it. But there's a couple of, before we do our other break, there's lots of other little bits of news. Cole Sands pitched yesterday at a scoreless inning, but he has a sore knee. And he's like, it wasn't anything terribly bad, but it was enough to change some of my mechanics, which is frightening. And that's a good way to get hurt with your upper body, too. So we just had to kind of push through it and make some pitches. So I don't know about that. That's not great. Matt Wallner left the previous game with an oblique strain. You might have seen that sort of manifest itself in a swing in his pinch hitting appearance Tuesday. So he's on the DL. I'm sorry, the IL. I keep doing that. I'm an old head.
Keep it on the IL.
He's on the IL. It's not for sure that he wouldn't come back in the postseason if there is a postseason. If there is a tomorrow, I wouldn't count on it. Obliques are usually
very
minimum
tricky.
3 weeks, 4 weeks. So I doubt it.
Back for the World Series,
right? And Kepler's already out. He's been put on the IL. They don't expect him back. It would take some strain, coming off a disappointing, unhealthy, as it turned out, season for him. I wouldn't necessarily, people are like, well, that's the last he's played in the Twins uniform. I wouldn't necessarily say that. Maybe he'll be back.
And maybe he, finds the market soft and comes back for, like we've said, a pillow contract.
Yes.
Happens.
Something like that could happen. Yes.
No question about it. Yeah. Let's give some shine to the bullpen before we go to break. 8 innings they covered.
Yeah.
4 strikeouts, 0 walks, 0 earned runs, and 5 hits. I mean, just an incredible, very Boston Friday night Herculean level efforts by this bullpen. And Topa even getting out there, 7 of his 8 pitches for strikes. I mean, it's a shame that it's going to come down to the wire like this and possibly still result in the Twins not making it. But we can call a spade, likely result in that. But this is what they envisioned for this bullpen, not obviously 8 innings in one night, but setting it up where they can give you some really good, really strong innings.
The pen has picked them up in several different games when the starters haven't been able to. And some of those, sometimes that's been, Ober or Pablo who haven't, they're not going to be perfect every time out.
Right.
And the bullpen has come through. Topa, I'm not sure about his velocity. It's been down. It's never really gotten back to where it was. And so I don't know, like long-term, and by, I mean, long-term, even like the end of this season. So maybe an off season will help him kind of rejuvenate, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to count on him in the long run anyway. But it was nice for him to have that inning, and Jorge Alcala's back, and so that's all good. Austin Martin came in for Wallner. Brent Hedrick was the thing that I don't know. They sent down Hedrick for Topa, and Hedrick had pitched well in that 3-inning performance the other day.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that was I don't know if that's going to turn out to be the right thing to do. I think they could probably use Hedrick because they got the Cole Irvin has been DFA'd. So
would you have DFA'd Tonkin instead?
Well, he's been pitching well too. I don't know. Did they have to DFA somebody? I don't know.
I mean, options wise, otherwise you don't have that many guys to send out. I'm going to go on a limb here. I know we're drastically late into the break. If the Twins win today, I'm telling you, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Well, the Royals also have to lose. The Royals are playing.
I'm just saying, if the Twins control what you can control, the Twins.
Well, Brandon, they have to win. It's the Marlins.
I know. I'm
They have
saying
100 losses. I know, but it's like
just today. No, I'm saying if they win, they will get in. I'm not saying if they win, they won't. I'm saying in a vacuum, if the Twins win today, they will be playing in the postseason.
well, I don't know about a vacuum, but they're sending the Royals to a hurricane. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back for our final segment.
Okay. It's gonna make a Hoover pun, Dave, but I didn't, and I won't. Anyway, Booking.com wants you to know that this episode of Locked On Twins is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even Cleveland, Baltimore, any of those rival cities where the stinky Guardians play and they're crying about giving up a perfect game on a bunt single by the Cincinnati Reds, or as they call them, the Kentucky Reds. I don't know what the heck that's all about. I'm going to stay out of that. That's a Jeff Carr battle for a different day. Jeff Carr against one of the Guardians guys is Jeff Ellis. So those Jeffs can battle. And
Still diverging.
Yeah, is how it goes. Yeah. Anyway, Booking.com is the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. So go get the Booking.com app today. You can check out all the things that those cities are known for. Cleveland and all their tall buildings, and Baltimore's got crab cakes and the harbor. New York City has everything, that tall green lady and all that fun stuff. If you're going to go check those out, though, Booking.com is the place to go with hotels, beds, and breakfasts. Bed and or breakfast. No, they have both. Vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You can find your perfect stay for the postseason, whether you're in the postseason or not in the postseason. You just might be going, maybe to a little somewhere sunnier, a little warmer, a little bit nicer than Cleveland in October. But you can check it out. Booking.com delivers exactly the right U.S. stay for you. You can book a stay close to your stadium or the opposing stadium if you're on the road, and the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah.
So there's a hurricane.
A comment.
It's going to Florida and Atlanta. The Mets already had the rest of their series washed out. And now the Royals are, I don't know, they have to play today. The Royals have to play in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Corbin on the mound. You never know what you're going to get with Patrick Corbin, but if he can put one of his good starts together, the Nationals have a chance.
Get him to be hot. Give me one of those Corbin Burns. I'm sorry.
Absolutely not. So we wouldn't be leaving it up to the Braves to. I guess all the Braves would have to do is take 2 out of 3, but then the Orioles would have to lose all 3 games to the Twins, and I don't know if I foresee that, even though the Orioles are kind of locked into their playoff berth. But the Major League Baseball had an opportunity. We have this thing called meteorology where they project and predict the weather, and we've known for several days that there's a hurricane forming, and the path was going to go through Florida and then north to Georgia. And we knew, the people there knew that they were going to not play the end of the Mets series and maybe the beginning of the last series against the Royals. And it would be difficult to send. We want to tax the system by sending more teams, more people into the hurricane area. That's what Major League Baseball is doing, rather than finding a neutral venue or just a different venue for these games. And how big of a ignoramuses are these guys? Seriously, what kind of feckless, nonsensical person is Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, to do this?
Not only feckless but reckless. I mean, it's not good. And to diverge ever so briefly, it reminds me of the Woody Woodpecker Blizzard episode where they make no preparations and suddenly he's staring death in the face halfway through the winter. Yeah, no, it's not quite like that, but if you look at the weather reports, they expect Tallahassee and that area in Florida to get hit hard. Well, all of Florida is going to get touched, at least in some point, by this hurricane. And to have been not prepared is a dereliction in Rob Manfred's duties. Boy, that's a fun turn of phrase. But yeah, par for the course, really. I mean, I've come to expect nothing, and I'm still disappointed.
Baseball has, in past years, maybe even with Manfred as commissioner, it's been a while since, he's been in charge for a while. They've moved games, they've moved series to different towns to get out of the path of a hurricane. It's not anything that is new, and I've also heard things like, well, maybe they won't bother to make up the Mets series if only seeding is at stake rather than some team's entry into the playoffs. They'll just figure it out that way. So it's hilarious the things that they find important. No, we're going to keep the series in Atlanta because of the big gate that the Braves will get for the Mets. But you know what? Maybe we won't play the games because we're just going to go with the records as they are. The regular season doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
And we're just going to, ignore the seeding issues and just get on to the playoffs. It's like, is Rob Manfred like simultaneously a commissioner of a different sport that he's distracted from right now?
And Braves
is there not anything in baseball that he needs to pay attention to?
Braves fans will find a way to be pissed either way, like when they lost the All-Star game. It's just the way it's going to go.
All right. Well, I think that's good
enough
for this show. Yeah, what's Sully up to?
Yeah, make sure you check out Locked On MLB. We know that you love making Locked On Twins your first listen every day, but Sully should be your second on Locked On MLB. Again, his name is Paul Sullivan. He's not the baseball reporter in Chicago, but we call him Sully. We love him. He's here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to get you ready for the playoffs as we trudge through the last few days in the dog days. So get ready for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day on Locked On MLB, which is on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, just like Locked On Twins, because it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day.
Every day, tomorrow night. Oh, I'm ahead of myself. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. For my colleague, Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown. We're definitely going to see it tomorrow night or tonight. We're going to do a show after this game. You didn't need to cut me off already. Casilla tomorrow night.
Casilla tomorrow.